I have always been perceived as a kind of niche comedian, and I totally understand why. I mean, I totally get it on paper. In my heart, I'm not that. You know what I mean? In my heart, I'm like a song and dance man. And I'm like, and I feel that what I'm saying is very clear. And then I go to the editing room and I'm like, well, this is incoherent. And I'm like, this is utterly incoherent, and it's so weird. And were you so stoned when you wrote this? Yeah.
Filmmaker Magazine presents Back to One with Peter Rinaldi.
John Early is an actor. He sat down with me in New York City to talk about the work.
Did you devise the John Early character that I saw in Now More Than Ever in the same way that you would devise other characters?
Yes. There's always just the kind of problem of playing yourself, and there are a few paths you can take.
Right.
You can actually try to play yourself. You can really try to mimic what you do, in your daily life if you have that level of self-awareness. But if I were to truly play myself, I actually don't think it would be that funny.
Right.
So that's one problem.
Yeah.
Then there's the issue of just like, well, do I play the parts myself that I like, that I think are, do I play the, my southern warmth? Do I play, it's like, no. Like, I don't like it. To flatter yourself is also an insane thing to do. If you're a comedian, you're already kind of predisposed to not flatter yourself, to make fun of yourself. And so, the thing is, there is a long evolution to this character, actually. The kind of whatever the John Early persona is that I do in these, like, especially in the backstage sketches. And there is a difference, as I hope you perceive, between the backstage and the onstage. But it really started for me when one is like when I first started making videos, so to speak. It's like that's the birth of YouTube, and so the birth of like the front-facing thing of people making content as an individual, alone in a room with no crew and just total isolation, and seeing yourself as you're doing it, So like, there's kind of only one comedic path there, which is just crazed narcissism, So like that's where that developed, I think, a little bit, was just the internet. And making footage of yourself, filming yourself for the internet. But then there was this thing where I was really, really drawn to playing women. Like a lot of my like early stuff is me playing women. I was really and still am very interested in that, and I found it very liberating because for some reason, when I played a woman, when I could fully transform, I felt permission to be kind of almost totally sincere in a way. And then I got to this point where I was like, okay, but maybe I'm avoiding some sort of challenge here. And I was like, what happened? Even though I really, really love the stuff where I'm playing women, I was like, I do want to see what happens if I just look like myself. And so very kind of consciously, this was not like a slow developing thing. I was like, okay, I want to make a series of sketches. I used to make these videos for this variety show that I did, and it was just like a self-imposed deadline to make little short films. And I was like, I'm going to stop playing women for a bit. And if I look like myself, what does that mean? Like, if I have my blonde hair and my like sweet little southern kind of affect and my kind of people-pleasing kind of nervous thing, like what kind of character would that be? And that's not necessarily the character that ended up in Now More Than Ever, but it did start a kind of a journey of like playing a John Early character, which I think is maybe most defined by a kind of like a presentational quality with a kind of panic underneath that presentation.
And you're fine tuning it, I guess, as you go along for comedy.
Yeah, and I have to say, now more than ever, like is in some ways like it's the most like almost blunt and in some ways like maybe accessible and simple kind of game. It was just very clear if I'm doing backstage sketches and I'm the lead singer, I've put myself in this position where I'm a lead singer of a rock band. It's like kind of your only option is to be like a crazy diva. You know, like that's and I took the path of least resistance there. I didn't overthink it. I just was like, I'm gonna do this thing where I'm like looking in the mirror and I'm trying to keep all the attention on me.
And that leads to like the fuck you to the parents, right? Because the lead singer is not going to, be, I guess, hi,
sweet
everyone love my
parents. Totally.
Yeah.
Well, that's an interesting thing because, I think everyone in the room and a lot of people watching that experience that moment with my parents as sweet, which is how I experience. I find it incredibly tender, actually, because I'm torturing them outwardly, and I'm being all bratty and adolescent to them. But what I've done is I have a spotlight on them, and I have an entire crowd of people cheering and screaming for them, and they're genuinely so excited to see them. And I think it's like the sweetest thing in the world. And there were a couple. I think most people love that, but there was like a critic, a very prestige, highbrow critic who I formerly admired, who just was like talking about it being kind of disaffected and like too cool and like mean and stuff. And I was like, to me, that's like one of the most sincere parts of the special. I'm just like, aren't they adorable? I'm not going to say, aren't they adorable? Obviously, because everyone's smarter than that. They don't need me to say that.
In the same vein, do you think that there is, in a certain sense, you are always trying to be a little bit ahead of the audience? Or is this just something that's happening in a kind of naturalistic way for you because you're trying to make yourself laugh?
Yeah, I certainly don't try to be ahead. Certainly, like I am just making myself laugh. And if anything, I'm trying to slow down, and like this special particularly, just the kind of the reality that I was going to put it on permanent record and film my live show and share it with the world. I have always been perceived as a kind of niche comedian, and I totally understand why. I mean, I totally get it on paper. In my heart, I'm not that. You know what I mean? In my heart, I'm like a song and dance man. And I'm and I feel, I feel that what I'm saying is very clear, and then I go to the editing room and I'm like, well, this is incoherent, and I'm like, this is utterly incoherent, and it's so weird. And were you so stoned when you wrote this? Yeah, and like and I don't, but it's not for lack of trying. I really do try to be as kind of universal as possible. There is another kind of entry point to this. I think what we're talking about, which is like identity, and like I came up in a time in comedy, and I became quote unquote successful in comedy as there was a real kind of proliferation of like identity comedy, like people kind of being like, myself included, realizing like, oh, like when I first started comedy, I was on the most normal shows with like a lot of straight comedians, and I loved it. I loved being the little gay guy on with like my boys, I loved those boys, and I still do, and like that was really fun for me. And then as I kept doing comedy, it actually all got more. Then suddenly it was like, no, now I'm only on shows with other kind of like gay people, or like queer people, or like artsy comedians, Whereas before it actually felt a little more. You can't find a less loaded word. Integrated. It's like it felt more just like I don't know, even though that the thing that it was evolving into was apparently more progressive because it's like, yeah, this is a queer show. Yeah. It's like, okay, but now we're just performing for ourselves and with each other. And it's like, it all got very, everything got very kind of insular. And that obviously coincided with like streaming and people like the dissolving of like a monoculture and like, and everyone just being marketed to their own kind of little niche. And so we're all watching the same content in our little bubble, and we're so unaware of what everyone else is watching, and you know, and we're losing these kinds of like just the basic concept of like universality, though. That's kind of what I mean. Is like there are things that we can all actually laugh at in our own little, but we're convincing ourselves, and we're being convinced that we can't laugh at the same things. And like,
or people in high rises are like, oh well, they're queer. They need the queer content. Let's give them the queer content.
Yes, exactly.
Exclusively.
And it's like, what is queer content? I'm like, when the things that executives think that I want as a gay guy, I'm like, well, you're dead ass wrong. Like, they want like queer joy. Like that's something that like I get asked about a lot. Like, what does queer joy mean to you? I'm like, nothing. I don't know. I have no idea what you're talking about. It's not real. You know, and like it's so. This special, I was like kind of waking up from years of benefiting from these kinds of systems, like where it was like, where I was like, oh, the thing that makes me special is that I'm gay, and I can kind of exploit that and kind of be like the gay, and I can even, I mean, I think back to some stuff that I've done, and you know, I'm fine with it, but like there's still like some of the earlier stuff I was doing was a little like, and straight guys, fuck you. In a way that I don't even feel that. Like I don't feel that. It's like, it was like a pose that felt powerful and like felt kind of hot and subversive or something. And I just I don't know. Like, so with this special, I was really trying to get that out of my material. This kind of like, holier than thou thing, and I really wanted, you know, I wanted to be a little more universal and be a little less weird. And so this is to answer your question from 62 minutes ago of what do I feel more ahead, or do I always feel ahead? I really in this way I was trying to slow down and be a little bit more like, and that's why to me the truly, when I'm successful in the special with that, and a lot of times I'm not, and I'm still just kind of hopelessly weird and niche, but when I'm most successful is when I'm talking about like the phone and the internet, because that is a universal thing that completely dominates all of our lives, you know, and that was like a breakthrough for me.
When I look back and I think, like, the first thing I saw you on was Search Party, I think. Thinking back on it, I was realizing this was a pretty good depository for what you can do comedy-wise.
Search Party.
Yes.
Totally.
It could have been so much worse on some like sitcom.
No, I am so lucky for Search Party. I thank God every day. Like, for that role. It really was like, because in my own work too, the work that I make, I have a very tight grip, and like Search Party, because it wasn't mine, I was just kind of like loose, and like I was like, what am I doing now? You know, it's like, and I got to just kind of go, and thankfully it was in a container that was like smart, and like there was an actual point of view, and there was taste, and and so I was safe to do that. But
is that because Charles respected you as a comedian, or was this like, and you had freedom to like do certain things that maybe wouldn't have happened if he didn't know you as
maybe Charles and SV, like they both, we knew each other before that, and like I do, they were very kind of let me do whatever, you know,
and was it getting to a point where I always worry, like I talked to Gene Smart about Hacks after season 1, and I said, Are you? When I say the word Hacks season 7,
Yeah.
and like her face dropped, you know what I mean? But every time they renew it, I'm like, it's now season 4. I'm like, I wonder if she's getting a little bit.
Yeah.
Because like it's like a careful what you wish for kind of
I
thing.
know.
Right? Were you feeling that, or at that point?
We
or
were
was
never successful enough for me to feel that. Like it was like kind of a miracle that we got as many seasons as we did because of the streaming wars. Like HBO Max, I think, was like, okay, you'll be on our platform and we'll show the world, like, we have this cool show, but there was no, at that point, like if we were on traditional television, I think we would have been canceled almost immediately. But we were in that like really nice sweet spot where these places were just trying everything. And so, but no, I wasn't sick of it. And it was 10 weeks. It was always like, it was 10 episodes a season. It was so fun. It was so fun. I was always desperate to go back because it was just great. Like structure and good writing. And I got to do the most fun stuff ever. Yeah. It was cool.
That helps, I guess.
Yeah, it helps a lot. But no, if we had gone more, totally. I did. I mean, I still feel this. I'm still kind of correcting for this. And this isn't Search Party's fault. This is just how it's shaken down. I still feel a desire to show different parts of myself. There are 5 seasons in a character that's that kind of despicable. Yeah. Even though, to me, there's plenty of humanity in him, but like, I am always kind of compelled to play. And I don't even like to use that word, despicable. It's like people who are like thorny, annoying. Yeah. I like to play annoying people. Yeah. Is probably actually the most kind of universal quality in them, but like, I do want to do other shades. That
at a certain point it becomes like, this is great, but there are parts of me that I want to.
And it's no longer seeing me be a monster. I don't think is that exciting for people anymore. Right. I mean, I don't know what, I'm so out of touch with what people want, but like, especially about me. But like, I at least when I get like asked to do stuff like that, which I do when I get asked to do anything, it's that. Oh yeah. It's like the diva. Right. It's the diva monster, narcissist, and like, I'm just a little like, I know you think you want that. Yeah. It's meaningless. Like, no, people are like, yep, no, we get it.
That's an example of the old kind of thing that I'm talking about in a way. You know what I mean? Where like, how many times do we mine this out?
Yes.
And there's not a lot there.
No more oil. Yeah.
But do you have a list of people that you give them? Hey, I'm not doing this anymore.
Basically, yes. Literally.
But here's a couple people. How did Stress Positions come to you?
Well, Theta, who directed it, and is in it, and scored it, and edited it, and wrote it, most importantly, she is one of my oldest friends. And we used to do theater stuff together when we were very young, and like, and she and I hosted a variety show for years together, and she's just one of my best friends, and she wrote that script for me. Amazing. And like gave me a kind of early version of it on my birthday.
That's amazing.
It was so beautiful.
How was that production? How was that? When was that film? Was that was after COVID, right?
Yes.
It's almost like a period piece.
Yes. We weren't far enough away, and someone already still not far away enough, but it was fall of 2022.
Oh, okay.
Right before I shot the special.
And ultra low budget, or did you guys have?
Could not get lower. like could not get lower. Like, I mean, like, you could get lower, but then it would be all kind of like non-union. We were like the lowest you can go for like a kind of like legal production.
That's amazing. It doesn't look like
and
that.
And Faye and I were so stupid because we originally were like, we want to make this movie totally off the radar. We want to do this for like $60,000, set it all in a dining room, do it at my house, like the smallest crew humanly possible, all hands on deck. everyone stay out of the way. Like we wanted to do like a kind of like our heroes, Wallace Shawn, Andre Gregory. You know, we wanted to do like the kind of a process that exists outside of the industry model, and keep it as intimate and as and then when she wrote another draft script, I was like, this is so good. Like, and I was like, I need to take and I took it to Neon, and they, and it was like, it was a blessing and a curse, because then they gave us more money, and they were like, and the budget's $650,000, and we're like, what? We're like, oh my God, we're like, this is gonna be crazy. And then like, that is so low budget. Yeah. It was so hard. Yeah. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. Yeah. It was crazy.
If you were doing it by yourself, $600,000 would be a lot of money. But because it is that, it lumps it, it brings it into another category. It has to be legal. It has to be all this stuff. And you have to have certain crew members.
Like, you can't do the thing we wanted to do, which is like sleepover style. Just like no hair and makeup. Like, you know, like if you are the DP, you're also in it. You know, if you're doing... If you're a cast member, you're also doing crafty. It's like, you know, we're cooking, you know, whatever. And also, can everyone, we're going to like just keep shooting. Like, is that cool? Like, which, you know, I'm a very lefty kind of labor is an important issue, you know, but like art is fuzzy, you know, it's like art, like making it, it's a very complicated thing. Right. You know, when you're on a roll, it's like you can't stop. Yeah, and the only way to do that is if you are working with friends, where there is an actual kind of working relationship. There's a bond where you can actually, where you don't feel like you're taking advantage of someone, or you don't feel like they're taking advantage of you. Right. That the only way to exploit people is if they're your friends. But once you start once you start making it more real and hiring people you don't know, and like. And, you know, then it's like you have to get into a very kind of rigid, artistic model. Right.
And then it becomes, when it's that low budget, becomes actually harder than if you had done it the other way.
Yes, literally.
Yeah. So that's what we're talking about here. As I'm watching and I'm thinking, when I'm seeing you, I'm thinking about something I have not really thought about before, which is, I was thinking about the editor. Because you're doing so much between the lines and after the line. And I'm thinking, and sometimes you see it, and I could point it out. I'm thinking of the editor being like, normally they would cut here, but they can't, because you're doing so many good things in this moment. And they can't cut away. And it actually becomes a thing where like we're on you while the other person's talking, you know, which is, you know, it happens a lot in movies, but I'm just saying, you're giving a lot there. And the beginning of this interview, you were talking about watching yourself on a screen early in the early days. Yeah. I mean, I'm imagining now that that's where you got an idea of what your face is doing.
Totally.
And then you're giving it, and it pays dividends in a moment like this, where you're like, let me give some more here.
Well, I mean, but that's also like the watching yourself on a screen, you know, making all the kind of world of front-facing content that we live in, where there's like, and all of us, this isn't just people who make content, anyone who has social media, anyone who has a phone, really, that takes footage or pictures, whatever, we are all living with a new level of self-consciousness that we don't even understand how it's affecting our lives. Yes. But like, what I treasure so much about doing a fully fictional kind of film world, where I got to play Terry Goon in stress positions, like, was that it's not a character who's on the internet. It's not, he's actually kind of sweetly old fashioned. And like, and just as an actor, the difference between what I normally do, where like, there's the meta layer of like the camera or the audience, or, you know, and part of what I'm doing is playing someone who's aware of the camera, aware of the audience. It is so, and this is why I like acting, like pure acting, and why I want to do so much more of it. Is like, you get to pretend to have these private, unsurveilled moments, and which of course modern life, every single moment is monitored, surveilled. You know, it's but with phones now. But it was so beautiful for me to just try to create. I mean, I know this is literally acting 101. This is what acting is.
Yeah.
But it's almost like so much of what I do is stand up.
Right.
You know, there's me and Kate was always like we're playing ourselves. There's a camera. There's always meta layers. So it's like, it was so nice to just be like someone alone in the house, you know, and like someone who's like panicked and like, worried how they're coming across to one other person, but not to like, not for the fans, you know?
Right.
I don't know. It's like, that's what is thrilling about acting, is like recreating private moments.
Yes.
I don't know.
And it was actually, it's funny you say that, because it was actually great to see you doing that.
Yeah.
And successfully.
Thank you.
Are you trying to do that more now? Are you trying to line up things like this, that maybe that you're not actually devising yourself, that you're not
always. I mean, I'm always just trying to, it's so funny, like with the special too, I was like, so I'm just very proud of the special, which is why I'm talking about it a year later. But like, I was like, well, here we go.
Yeah.
I was like, here come the filmmakers. Because I was also, in some ways, I'm trying to telegraph to people like that I like, the reason why I tried to make it a film, I mean, there's many pure reasons why I made a film, but like the most kind of transactional reasons is I'm trying to like show people, I'm like, see, I can be, you can put me in beautiful settings, not just like overlit TV settings.
Yeah.
You can film me with a beautiful kind of Cassavetes camera if you want. and like of course there's been nothing. There's been absolutely not one single call. But thank God I have friends like Theta, you know, who have bigger imaginations about me than most people. And
here's my advice for you.
Yeah.
You need to be worse at what you do.
Okay.
So that you can be perceived as one of these regular actor persons.
Yeah.
No, seriously, you're an embodiment of artistry, of comedy artistry.
Thank you.
All the time, on both sides of the camera. And if you and that's why I'm saying it was a refreshing thing to see you in Stress Positions.
Yeah, in a movie.
Yeah. As a character.
Yeah.
It felt like you weren't devising it out of yourself, and that's great.
I do think people are like you're saying, I think people are like, well, he's got it.
Exactly. That's why I just laughed when you said, and nothing's coming in. I'm like, you're a genius. Let's laugh about how nothing's coming. Yes. Make it. You can make it. Then make it.
I've had some beautiful things in the past year, some very unexpected opportunities, and even this past week, I've been rehearsing this thing, like a play thing that will take forever to ever see the light of day. But it's like, it's been so nice to just it's the most soothing thing in the world to not be anything other than an actor.
Is there something that you have been thinking about regarding comedy in general, or about your own, that you've never felt there was a proper place to talk about it because it's too philosophical? This is the proper place to talk about it. I'm imagining that sometimes a thought comes in with somebody like you who's always thinking about this, crafting things, particularly comedy, and you've come upon some kind of, in your Goodwill Hunting.
My beautiful mind.
Yeah, beautiful mind.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah.
That. And then you're like, oh, no one wants to hear this.
Yeah, I have no, what's that actress, who's the wife of Beautiful Mind?
It's Jennifer Connelly.
Jennifer Connelly, I was about to say Jennifer Coolidge. Yeah, there's no Jennifer Connelly. I mean, well, I mean, to me, and this is related to our conversation about acting and showing new sides of myself, but to me, the thing that was so exciting about this special and about this tour was the grouping a certain kind of thematically connected material, putting music under it, and letting it build into a song. Not groundbreaking at all. It's literally cabaret, that's like the form of cabaret, but I've never let myself do it. I always was kind of like very weirdly compartmentalized about music and comedy, and like being like, I do the songs are songs, and that's all they are, and the comedy's comedy, and it's like, and like I'm not like, it felt almost too pretentious to merge them, and when I put the music under the section in my special that leads into the Neil Young. And by the way, there's no coincidence that the piano starts after Ask Ab Not to Track. Because it's like, it's all like the mania of that joke and like of being so silly and like, and kind of, but also it's a really silly kind of absurd joke, but it's like, it is me trying to talk about like the hell of contemporary life, of being like tracked, and like the ways in which we're always being kind of confronted with like the needs of corporations, just in every moment. And like, and then like kind of that, then the piano comes in and then it like gets kind of slow, and like, that was like the most amazing thing to find and to develop on the road with Hess, who played the keyboard, and like and singing with him on the road, singing After the Gold Rush with him on the road, just like our like two male voices. I mean, it was to sing with Dominique and Princess and the special is a whole other thing, but like the unobserved performances I did with Hess, like it was just very, very emotional for me. And like, where I kind of got to admit to myself and to my audiences that like underneath my crankiness is actually quite a bit of despair and like even maybe a little bit of hope. Like for a different world, like for a better world. And like, and it was to where I let my, like, I stand up and acting have been kind of compartmentalized for me too. And actually like, once I put music underneath the stand-up, I was like, oh no, it's just acting. And now I actually have a task as an actor. It's as if a director came in and gave me a good note once the music was underneath it. Like, because when I'm just doing stand-up, no music, the task is to just seem conversational. And to seem like you're kind of saying this for the first time. And you're like, trying to look like you're trying to be the friend, the audience member, and you're just chatting, but so then sometimes the emotional content of the jokes and of the material gets buried underneath this kind of like naturalism or something, and then when I put the piano under it, and suddenly I could literally look at the audience and be like, and be panicked and be like, you know what I mean? Like that was so exciting.
It also allows for poetry. Almost, because of that foundation. And then it becomes a different thing.
And that's the other thing as a writer. It's like when I'm trying to do the purely conversational, you're like, the writing has to sound conversational. But with the music, it can be more poetic, and I can be, which is actually how my brain works, not because I'm a poet, but because I'm a little like stonery. It doesn't, I'm more efficient when I'm communicating in a more kind of musical, groovy way.
When you make a discovery like this, is there a place to take it back to the lab? Is that the road, like going out on the road?
Yes. Well, me and Hess are going to go back out on tour this fall, and like we're both so excited to just fully integrate the music and the comedy, like in the way that like Isaac Hayes does, in the way that Millie Jackson, they're both dead. It's like, but like, this kind of like where there's always like a thing, a groove underneath it, and then it's like you get little bursts of the chorus, and then and it's like foreplay, and you talk for 10 more minutes, and you're like, oh my god, and then like the chorus, the song happens, like so that's what we're going to try to do.
That'd be amazing. You're a big cinephile.
Yes, I would like to think.
Is there something that you've seen recently a really obscure thing that you want to mention at the end of this conversation
Okay, let me think.
that you loved?
Oh, okay, I have a perfect thing. So I've been watching lots of TV movies from the 90s and the 70s. And I watched this movie the other night based like because this like really sweet proper cinephile recommended this to me because I was like, I need TV movies. Like I need like
Yeah.
you know, because they are, if you're trying to make something really cheap,
Yeah, it's a certain
it's like
kind of thing.
in it from a certain era,
Right.
that's like Cirque on a budget.
Right.
You know,
That's right.
those are real filmmakers,
Right.
real crew members who worked in Hollywood for years on beautiful films,
Yeah.
and then are just like the industry model's changing, and they're taking those skills on it and doing them on a budget.
Yeah.
And I watched this movie called Someone I Touched from the 70s. It's about syphilis. It's called Someone I Touched, and it stars Cloris Leachman. Kenneth Mars is also in it, and the acting is brilliant. It's like some of the best. Every single person is flawless. The filmmaking is like so pristine and perfect and like contained and just so and restrained.
Wow.
But it's about like syphilis. It's about like syphilis, and she's pregnant, so she finds out her husband has syphilis, but she's pregnant with their baby, and
Oh
like,
my God.
and
So
she sings the title song. Cloris Leachman sings a song called "Someone I Touched."
So it's so good though you can't laugh at the content.
You literally,
Right?
well, that's what's amazing, because normally you go to TV, or
Yeah.
I go to TV movies to just like scream laugh.
Yeah.
It's like one of my favorite genres for that reason. But the acting is so, they never slip. They toe the line so, they never let you laugh at it, because the actors are just like trained genius actors. The only thing that made me laugh is that she's 4 months pregnant and she clearly refused to wear any sort of bump. So she's like rail thin, tucked in shirts, totally flat stomach, and she's like, I'm 4 months pregnant. Like, she keeps saying it. You're like, why did they not give her a bump? But it's unbelievable. You can watch it on Amazon, and it's you should watch it. It's like
might
70
watch it.
minutes, and it's
Yeah.
like gorgeous filmmaking.
This is a very good selection.
Thank you.
I wasn't expecting this, but this is. But no, seriously. But that's what I want, stuff like that.
Yeah.
That we don't know. I didn't think you could stump me either. I thought whatever he's going to say,
He'll say
I've
some.
either seen or know.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, John Early, thank you so much for this. I
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
appreciate it.
Back to One is a production of Filmmaker Magazine, which is a publication of The Gotham, formerly IFP. Listen to back episodes of this podcast at filmmakermagazine.com or wherever you get your podcasts.